Good evening, and welcome to Penn Foster's 2019 Student Success and Career Fair. I hope you've been able to take opportunity and to listen in the past to other webinars. If not, there's still some more going on throughout the week that you can register for and enjoy and make the most of your education while you're here at Penn Foster. My name is Virginia Feston. I will be your host and your presenter today. Thank you for joining me. I am so glad you're here. We're getting ready to begin our next session. As we begin, each of you should see a control panel if you're listening online in the right-hand corner of your screen. There's a green arrow, there's an orange arrow at the top, no green. I'm looking at my screen. And that you can use that to hide or control or show your control panel. You may minimize this control panel by clicking on the orange button in the upper upper right-hand corner. Well, actually, it's in the left-hand corner of your control panel. You may expand the panel by clicking the same button. Take a minute and practice. Once your control panel is opened or expanded, you will have access to the question box near the bottom of the control panel. Please use the question box to answer, can you hear me and can you see my screen? Excellent. Most of you are saying that yes, you can hear me and you can see my screen. Let's go ahead and move on. Today, the things that we're going to discuss are barriers to learning, understand how to develop a positive locus of control. And if you've never heard of that before, don't worry. It's a concept in education that has been talked about in philosophy a lot. Also, you can have a locus of control in your job or at home in your family. We're going to talk about that, and you want to develop strategies for taking ownership of your education. When I did my master's degree, part of it was hybrid, which means I would go online on campus, and part of it was online, but most of it was online. So I know I can tell you as a testimonial that I learned the most being an online learner because I had to take ownership of my course. Nobody was there going to tell me what I was learning or what my, if it was right or wrong. I would have weekly discussions, and I would have to respond in an original post and at least 2 or 3 responses to my fellow classmates. We always had to interact to show that with their ideas, to show that we understood and to further the discussion. So many times, I kid you not, I would post many more than 3 discussion boards. The discussion boards for my master's degree had to be 2 or more paragraphs, and they had to come from a research point of view. So I had to include how research supported my opinion. So I know that it's important. I was listening today to Clark Summit University, and they were talking about how things have changed in the last decade for them. They have 1/3 of their population is learning on campus, and 2/3 are learning online. So that means there's a change also for what expectations are for instructors and graders. Also, there's changes in expectation of what the learner is doing. And the learner is demonstrating much more their personal understanding of material through discussion boards, through projects, through essays. And I tell you, I am sure you can succeed. It's just a matter of making sure that you understand how to take ownership of your education. This, the onus falls on you, not on the instructor, really, for what you're learning in your online education. So You are the one that steps up and performs the task every day. Just as if you went to a job every day, you have to perform your duties in order to stay at that job. So in order, you take ownership in some measure of the quality of your work and how you care for individuals, how you interact with people, the end product. The same is true with education. I am sorry I won't be able to answer many questions, but if you will, during the webinar itself, but if you will save them till the end of the webinar, I will try to get to as many questions as possible. If not, I can always send you an email afterwards, or you can send me an email asking me directly questions that you might have. Want to know a secret? Ownership of online learning. What in the world does that actually mean? Taking ownership of learning means independence to develop, independent thinking, and making meaning from your learning. Nobody's going to tell you if you're taking an early childhood education course how Piaget's cognitive theory works in your classroom, but you are going to read about it and research it and compare and contrast it to other theorists, and you're making your own meaning. This is really much more of a product outcome than if you're sitting in a classroom. Taking ownership of your learning implies having intrinsic motivation for growth. That means motivation that comes from it within, and somebody else isn't motivating you to get this. It's exciting to decide what you will learn and experience based on your own interest. Remember, you're here at Penn Foster or maybe somewhere else studying in an online manner. Typically, you choose something that's your own interest. And I know that you know as well as I do, if you're studying in something that interests you, you will pay much more attention and for lack of a better word, you will eat the information up much more readily than if you're taking something you don't want to take. There are, however, those courses that you must take that will complement your major, like math and English and science and philosophy. But still, those, I'm here to tell you as an educator for many years, those courses help you be more well-rounded and be able to relate to the people you serve much more easily. So let's move on and talk about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Of course, you already know that motivation is what moves you forward to accomplish something. So extrinsic motivation, many people have this idea that it's the teachers or the parents or the peers or the membership which they belong to, and they're responsible for your learning. Admittedly, to some extent, teachers are responsible for the material that you're going to read and interact with, but they're not ultimately responsible for whether you succeed or don't succeed. Intrinsic motivation is coming from inside. You're taking ownership or autonomy for your learning. You spend the time that's needed so you can learn the material. And oftentimes you will read and interact, and in your projects you have to think about the main ideas of what you've read and defend them or analyze them or things like that. So you are really in charge of your own education. This is a big jump for some people because they have only been in a classroom where teachers are teaching them and they're taking notes, and the tests are basically based on the notes that they take during the lectures or the class period or the reading. Here in intrinsic motivation, the student is responsible. And many times, I'll tell you, as I was in my online courses, it helped me to take notes, to organize my thoughts so then I could go on and write and participate in the discussion boards and write quality essays and work on projects. So you want to know a secret? Ownership of online learning. there are barriers to this. Locus of control, learning disability, poor time management, poor organizational skills, no real goal for learning, does not know how to study and what questions to ask in class, and believes what others have said about his or her learning abilities. Locus of control, again, has to do with who's responsible for your education. Is it the teacher's fault that you succeed or don't succeed? Is it your fault that you don't succeed and or that you succeed? Are you? It's really empowerment. If you have a learning disability, sometimes that's barriers, especially with online learning, because you do a lot of reading. But there are supports here at Penn Foster if you access the community, I believe, through the library. They have some tutors that will help you so that you can work through the materials and understand what you're reading. Poor time management. Oftentimes with tasks we don't like, we just procrastinate and put it off. And, oh, it's due tomorrow, or I won't pass this course. You don't put your best effort into it. It's not well thought out. You're ill prepared, and you get it returned, and you have to start again. Poor organizational skills mean I can tell you from working at a career college for a number of years at a ground campus, students would have their homework done for any group discussion, but they would just throw it in their backpack someplace, and they have lost the material that they've read. And now they're feeling frustrated and lost because they can't participate in the class discussion. So if you have like you're enrolling a new course just now, look at the course syllabus. Set out a schedule for when you want to get things accomplished. Also make sure that I found that it was very helpful for me to have a notebook so I could print out the assignments, and I could also put in research as I read it. And then I could go back and see if it was helping. But you have to be organized. If you're able to keep organized with all your documents online and in folders, that's great. You don't have to have a notebook, but I found that worked best for me. Other people have no real goal for learning. What that means is, why do I have to take this course? Oh yeah, I have to take this course so I can get my certificate, or I can graduate high school. But really, what is the purpose of this course? So I'm here to say that also that setting a goal, and I'm sorry your audio is funny. You may find that if you call in, it works better for you. I'm here to say if you set a goal at the beginning of a class and you talk about a new course, you talk about what you want to accomplish at the end of the course. Many times in your discussion boards, you will say, you will discuss how will this course help me in my career. Other times you need to, I would say in my ground courses to my students, also develop a plan for reaching that goal. It's how am I going to get to that? I want an A in this course. What kind of things do I have to do every day so that I can reach my goal? Other barriers are you don't know how to study or what questions to ask in class. In your discussion boards, I can see some of you are really doing a great job of asking questions of your peers to further discussion, and so that you are trying to understand the concepts even more. If you don't know how to study, I believe there is a webinar on in this particular student success fair that talks about how to study. If not, I know there's plenty online. Just Google it and you will find some help for how to study. And you believe what others have said about your learning abilities. I can tell you that working with adult learners, that if they had somebody, a teacher or a parent that said, oh, you'll never get this, you don't have to even worry about it. Why bother? You know, just get through the course and move on. That people believe that those courses are too heavy for them or too hard for them, and they don't have to put any energy into it. Many times I would say to my adult learners, and this may be helpful for you as well, find out what it is that other people have said about your learning abilities that are holding you back, and teach yourself new schema about how you can learn. Yes, you can succeed. You have to have a plan, maybe. I taught English foundations and math foundations in both English Comp in 1 and 2, and math foundations, and also algebra and college math. And I can tell you that those are the courses that most people don't like to take, because in the past people have said to them, oh, you can't get this, you'll never get that. And they really believe it. So throughout the course, I keep saying to them, you can do this. What are you saying to yourself? Are you capable of doing this? And many times I found that they needed just step-by-step instructions on how to accomplish the task. So that helped them considerably. Yes, yep, people expect perfection. Um, I know of one child when I was teaching elementary school. Her mom told her she didn't have to be good at math and she could be frustrated with it. And the father, when the father would tutor her at math, he would yell at her because it didn't come instantaneous. She didn't understand what he was telling her. And throughout all of her schooling, even through college, this child struggled with math because the parents gave her permission not to learn, and also the parents made it almost unbearable for her to learn. Okay, let's again talk about locus of control. It's a theory created by Julian Loader as part of his social learning theory. Social learning is what we do as learners. We discuss ideas a whole lot more. And because we discuss ideas, we deepen our knowledge. So you may have a more significant other that helps you learn, or you may have peers that help you understand. That's one of the beautiful things about discussion boards here, is that we get to interact and understand more about what we're learning. Roeder also believed that an individual's behavior is better determined by the individual and his or her thought processes in relationship to the environment rather than simply the environment itself. So right now, you are probably learning online, and how do you succeed in that? Do you find it frustrating because maybe you have never used written a Word document or written a professional email? These are things that may be frustrating, but you can overcome them. If you have an I can learn it, I can do it attitude, you have a positive locus of control. Locus of control is applied to all aspects of life, how a person approaches various tasks, how well as how successful a person is in particular task. You've all worked with those people, or you've had peers that just float by with this by the skin of their teeth, and it's frustrating to you, especially if you're a motivated student, to work with this person, or a motivated employer, because why don't they get fired? If you have a group project, it's hard to work with them because they don't hold up their end of the teamwork. But this is throughout life. It's very much moving from an individual culture at work to a team work culture. So you have to approach things from a positive locus of control. Locus of control can be a great determinant of people's ability in various aspects of their life. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Locus of control is a psychological concept that refers to how strongly people believe they have control over the situation and experiences that affect their life. How well Do you have control over your learning in an online environment? You have almost complete control. You're just showing products at the end through your discussion boards and your projects, your essays. So you're taking ownership. It's important that you take ownership. In education, locus of control typically refers to how students perceive the causes of their academic success or failure in school. As I said before, it can be a poor or negative locus of control. Who's responsible for your success, or who's responsible for your failure? The types of loci of control are internal and external. We've kind of already talked about this, but we'll go ahead and clarify this a little bit. Students who have an internal locus of control generally believe that their success or failure is a result of hard work or lack thereof. If you get back a paper that didn't pass the first time, you read the feedback and you go ahead and attack it again using the feedback to help you be better. You are responsible for the outcome. Internal locus of control motivates students to work hard and accept responsibility for the outcome. So if you want the A, you have to work hard for the A. External, and this is you have generally believe that their successes or failures result from external factors beyond their control. I never got this, I never will get this. They bought into that idea. Those may include reasons such as luck, fate, circumstances, injustice, bias, or teachers who are unfair, prejudiced, or unskilled. We've all seen students who said, it's a teacher's fault that I don't understand it. Is it really? What did the student do to clarify instructions or ask questions about the material so that they could understand better? Students who receive poor grades may blame it on the teacher. The teacher doesn't know how to teach. Or the teacher doesn't like me. You may have already heard that from many people, or maybe even at this point you say that from time to time yourself. Students feel hard work is pointless because someone is treating them unfairly and holding them back. They may not feel that any success they experience will go unnoticed and unrewarded. So why bother? So I hope you're not at this place, but if you are, I'm here to give you some help so that you can actually meet the expectations and take ownership of your online learning. Students with learning disabilities exhibit a more noticeable external locus of control, partly because of the negative experience they've had in school. If you had most of your education in a on-ground campus or a brick and mortar building with teachers, if you've had a lot of negative experiences there, you very well may say to yourself, well, I'll never get it. It's a teacher's fault. Today I was watching a movie called Hard Lessons, and Denzel Washington stars in it. It's about a principal, and it's based on a true story, in Los Angeles that worked with at-risk population. There were gangs, and how he turned the school around from people who said, why bother? There was one student in particular that said he never learned to read, and he was in 11th grade, and he didn't care if he ever learned to read. And the principal helped him get a tutor and helped him learn to read, and the student went on to do well in school. But he had a lot of problems with gangs and things like that. So in the end, there's a bad outcome with that. But the locus of control is we're saying to ourselves, I can't do it. I don't know how to read. I don't want to learn how to read. I never got math. I'll never be able to do math. I don't understand science or anything because of negative experiences in the past. If a student has had a particular challenging disability and has met with little to no success in school, then he or she is more likely to develop an external focus or locus of control as a coping mechanism. So, they realize that, in their mind, even though it's not reality, that they can't do it. And therefore, that's how they cope with not learning to read or not being able to write well. There's people that have dysgraphia that cannot write well. But they bought into the idea that they can't learn to do this, and therefore they're not, you know, they don't try. Can an external locus of control be changed to an internal locus of control? I guess I would like you all to answer that question. What do you think? Can an external locus of control be changed to an internal locus of control? And you can answer that in the questions box. I see some responses. Some people are saying yes, yes. And I'm here to validate your opinion. Yes, um, yes, it can be changed. So, Router believes change the way a person thinks, or change the environment, and a person is responding to, and the behavior will change. You'll know that some parents will take their children out of certain schools because they're being bullied, and the child has shut down in learning in that environment. They're just barely surviving emotionally. Um, so if they put them in another school, another academic um, learning situation, many times because the students new, their attitudes will change. Um, the more life experience a person has with building certain ideas and certain sets of beliefs, the more effort is needed to affect the change. The more effort is needed to affect the change. As I said before, at my other career college, they had a course about career success and getting ready for a career very early on in their education. And one of the things that was important in that course was that they had to identify the negative thinking that they brought into the classroom. And they had to begin to say to themselves, I can do this. Who is the person that will help me? Who can I go to for help? What are my barriers? Maybe having children at home and working full-time are barriers, but how can I arrive at the goal? And they would post these on Post-it notes all around their, environment, in their cars, at home, to say, I can do this, I can do this. People can be drawn forward by change in thinking. Replace negative thoughts with positive thoughts. Adopt a little engine that could attitude. Those of you that may not know the story of the little engine that could, it's a children's book, and maybe you've forgotten about it. It's a children's book about a train that was trying to make it up over the hill so that they could take good food to all the good boys and girls on the other side of the hill. But they broke down, and big engines were asked to come in and pull the train up over the hill, and everybody had an excuse. I can't do it. I can't do it. Finally, the smallest engine in the roundhouse said, I think I can do it. And all the way up over the mountain, they kept saying, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And in the end, the engine was able to bring good fruits and vegetables to the good little boys on the other side of the mountain. So what that is, the little story is to illustrate that, yes, we change our thinking and we change the way we attack a situation. When I was young, my grandmother tried to teach me to sew. Actually, she did teach me to sew, um, but she was a stickler. When I was making a seam in my sewing, it had to be perfectly straight. If it wasn't perfectly straight, I had to get the seam ripper and rip all the stitches out and try again. If I had developed an attitude like, oh, I'll never get this, I would never have learned to sew. I've been able to sew my children's clothes and quilts and some other things because my grandmother helped me, and I had an attitude, I can learn it. On the other hand, when I was in high school, I had some bad experiences with some science teachers. One, it got so that it was an elective to take more sciences. One of the teachers that I had was really improper in his approach to me, and he pinched my bottom one day. And I said, I'm out of science. I don't ever want to learn it. I don't care about it. But I took another course, and the first day I'm in that course, this teacher said, and I am a creationist, why do you believe in creation? Stand right up and defend yourself. Well, I was a very shy person, and I thought, I am not going to argue with somebody. I'm out of this class. And therefore, I really robbed myself of learning deeper level science until I was in college, and then I dove into it and learned it with rigor because it was a more positive attitude and I didn't have conflict. Um, so I think you need to be able to say to yourself, and those days, the teacher that touched me inappropriately, there was really nothing that was done, even if I brought it forward to the authorities. Now, as soon as I bring it forward, there would be questioning and court hearings and things like that. I want to say you can learn to change your attitudes. As I said, I had negative attitudes towards science, and really I quite love science now. Having positive experiences in college made all the difference. And if you're struggling with some particular course or being an online learner, put all around your house, your car, wherever you spend any amount of time, affirmations that say, I can do this, I can grow, I can learn. Who can help me? Who is my support group? What to do if I have children that are, need caring for? Who can take care of the children so I can study? Those are all things that will help you take ownership of your learning. Is make sure to find answers to those questions. I want to share some success stories with you, and you will maybe surprised with some of them, maybe not all of them. Ben Franklin had math problems. You may know who he was. He signed the Constitution. He was able to overcome those problems and go on and experience great success. He was also an ambassador for early United States. He was a newspaper printer, a writer, a musician, and a scientist. He founded the first post office, a volunteer fire department, the public library, and a college in Pennsylvania. So he didn't have a whole lot of problem with succeeding. He said, I can do this. In fact, as a child, he was kicked out of school because his teacher did not know how to reach him. And then his father put him in an apprenticeship where he could learn different trades, and yet he realized that he needed to do some other things to broaden his knowledge. So you'll remember he had the kite and electricity. You'll remember those types of things as well about him. Did you know that Jay Leno also has a learning disability? He was diagnosed with dyslexia and struggled in school. That means he has problems with focusing on the word itself. The letters may be reversed, and therefore it's hard to comprehend if every letter you're seeing or every so many letters you see are reversed in the word. During high school, one of his guidance counselors suggested that he drop out of school completely. However, Leno was determined to overcome the odds and persevered, graduating from high school and attending Boston's Emerson College, and earned a bachelor's degree in speech therapy. Today, Jay Leno, and you know who he is by his comedian and his late night shows that he had in the past. He promotes and supports learning camps and programs for children with all types of learning disabilities because he believes and he knows the truth that even with learning disabilities, that's not an excuse for learning. You can learn, you just need some support so you can learn. And last, I want to talk to you about one of our vice presidents here in the United States. His name is Nelson Rockefeller. He was a businessman, a philanthropist, 41st Vice President of the United States, a politician, and he was worth over $72,700,000. This is a letter that he wrote, and you can see that he also he struggled, but that did not hold him back. He accomplished great things. For I was one of the puzzle children, myself a dyslexic or reverse reader, and I still had a hard time reading today. But after coping with this problem for more than 60 years, I have a message of encouragement for children with learning disabilities and their parents. Based on my own experiences, my message to dyslexic children is this: don't accept anyone else's verdict that you are lazy, stupid, and you'll notice that this is exactly what he wrote, retarded, not retarded. And in this time when he was vice president, it was okay and perfectly politically correct to say retarded. But he was a success, as you can see. He overcame his difficulties and he helped many people. Want to know a secret? Ownership of online learning. Self-efficacy. What is self-efficacy? It's the extent to which you manage your own destiny, harnessing a sense of purpose. I am going to learn regardless of what people have told me, regardless of my struggles with learning. It's harnessing a sense of purpose, commitment, and persistence. That is an integral part of online learning. So we need to look at ourselves and be honest. What do I love to do? If you're looking to study something for your career or go into a career, or you're still in high school, you're going to want to, in today's world, go for more education. So answering this question will help you learn what is best for you to study. What do I love to do? What gets me out of bed in the morning and motivates me? Is it working with kids? Is it gardening? Is it working with pets? What skills can I learn more about that make me more marketable in the job world today? What are my skills? What are my values? Closeness to family, close friendships, helping people, social justice, making money, and fame. All three of my children went to Penn State University. And two of them really love helping people. My daughter is a doctor of speech therapy, a speech therapist. My youngest loves helping people, and he also loves to manage people. So at this point, he's managing a restaurant. My middle child is very good with computers, and he works for the state of Hawaii. So he's good with people, and he's good with relationships, and he's also good with computers and thinking through problems with the computer programs and how to overcome them. So they have all guided my children in their career choices. So what are your values? Do you want to be close to family? Do you want to have close relationships? Do you want to help people? Is making money most important? When my oldest son was little, he thought he would be Michael Jordan's replacement in basketball. So making money and fame was really important to him. As he's grown older, it's more about helping people and close relationships. What and who do I need to be around to feel confident and independent? What kind of living situation, money, and electronics? So if you think about your future, or really what you're here at Penn Foster for, if you're in career college or in the just at getting your associate's degree, what is it that you want when you end up with your degree? Do you want to live in Florida? Do you want to live in the islands? Do you want to make lots of money? If you have chosen early childhood education, sorry to tell you, there is not a lot of money to be there, but you are helping people. And if you love to help people and love children, that's a place for you. If you like electronics, that's a place for you to study. And where would I love to be in 5 years with my career, my family, and my living situation? Even if you are in high school, 5 years from now, chances are you will have graduated. And what do you want? Where do you want to be in your life in 5 years from now? Answering these questions will help you move towards um, the goal that you want ultimately and the learning that you want. Set goals, determine what you want to get from a particular course or your degree, and write down that goal. For example, when I was in college, I wanted to be top of my class. It was just important for me. I was already in my master's degree. I was already teaching in a career college, but I wanted to be top of the class because that was important. Also because that I'm teaching adult learners, I want them to have as much knowledge, be able to pass on as much knowledge to them as I could. So I would write down the goal. Um, and now that you have a goal, it's no use to have a goal if you don't have a plan on how to reach that goal. A plan without action is like a car without wheels. It fails to do what it's designed to do. So in order to be top of my class, I would set aside, I'd work all day teaching. I'd set aside so many hours at night, making sure that I read my material, interacting with people, working on my future projects. And yes, it paid off. What were my barriers? I had a family at home. Um, my husband, of course, if you're married or have a significant other, you need to build that relationship. It isn't just about you and your learning. So how are you going to spend time and make time to build that relationship? How are you going to make time to meet your children's emotional gas tank and spend time with them? But also, you need to make that plan, but then you also need to recognize that these could be possible barriers to meeting your goal. So you have to be disciplined for the time you're here in college so that you can meet your ultimate goal. And maybe your reason for earning your education is you can provide better for your family. Um, you can provide a better standard of living for yourself. You have more job opportunities. So don't lose focus of what you want to do with your education in the end. That will be a great motivator for you. If we do have time. Um, if you would like to, go ahead and make a plan. List all the ways you will reach your goal, whatever your goal is for learning. List anyone who can help you so you can reach your goal. List barriers to achieving your goal. List ways to overcome these barriers. And list a reward for yourself when you meet these goals. The students I had in my foundational math and foundational English classes, all of my students actually, didn't matter the course I was teaching, if it was early childhood, I would ask them to identify a reward for themselves when they met their goal, because a lot of them had already bought into, I can't learn and it's impossible. Um, so what will be your reward? Some people would say, getting the A for the first time in my life. Getting an A in math for the first time in my life was such a motivator for so many students. Getting an A in Foundations of English for the first time in my life was such a motivator to go on and learn more in English Comp 1 and English Comp 2. So you can go ahead and write that list for yourself. And if you would like to share it, you may in the questions box. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And if you're timid about doing that, that's okay too. I understand that, but about sharing. But it's important that you recognize that what your goal is and how you're going to meet it. Um, remember that barriers are just opportunities in disguise. Um, So how can you overcome the problem with a babysitter or the children that need caring for? Do you have a support person like your parents or your um, significant other that can watch your children while you're studying? What about not understanding materials? Um, Developing a bond with somebody that can help you understand the material, be a peer, be an instructor. First of all, I would say go to the instructor so you make sure you're understanding what they're asking in the assignment. And also, there are people that I know that in my past in the ground on ground or campus, brick and mortar building, that had problem comprehending. So it was a problem for them to comprehend what they were reading. They would get lost. And so they would hire a reader so the person could read to them and discuss the information with them. And that made a big difference in how well they succeeded. And they were able to go on and graduate and go into, I think it was medical assist, because they had somebody that would read to them their textbooks. Now, I know textbooks are dry and boring sometimes, but this person, out of the kindness of his heart, would read for the students that are struggling, or the librarian would. So if you have a problem with comprehension, who can help you? Who can be your learning partner at home or among your close friends? The story is told in ancient times. A king had a boulder placed on a roadway. Then he hid himself and watched to see if anybody would remove the huge rock. Now, our barriers to learning are like this huge rock. Some of the king's wealthiest merchants and courtiers came by and simply walked around it. Many loudly blamed the king for not keeping the roads clear, and none of them did anything about getting the stone out of the way. Then a peasant came along carrying a load of vegetables. Upon reaching the boulder, the peasant laid down his burden and tried to move the stone to the side of the road. After much pushing and straining, he finally succeeded. After the peasant picked up his load of vegetables, he noticed a purse lying in the road where the king, um, a purse lying in the road. The purse contained many gold coins and a note from the king indicating that gold was for the person who removed the barrier or the boulder from the roadway. The peasant learned what many of us never understand. Every obstacle is really an opportunity in disguise. I hope that helps you to understand that, yes, our boulders in life are really opportunities to grow us. You know as well as I do that we learn most from our mistakes, and we can move on from those mistakes. Someone has told me that they hope to finish the semester in 6 months. The support is their husband. To overcome, I will pace myself and know I can work on school at night if I need to. Excellent, excellent. Want to know a secret? Whatever direction you take, make a commitment to challenging yourself after high school. Choose a path that challenges your brain, increases your skills, and helps you gain real experience. Well, what happens if you fail? I've kind of already hinted at this. We learn more from our mistakes than we learn from our successes. Just over the weekend, I know that Yankees played 3 games with the White Sox, and they only won one of the baseball games, and the other, the White Sox, won. I am sure as they look back at the 3 games, they can look and see, oh, what did we do wrong, and how can we improve our play for next time? They may very well use these mistakes to have a success next time they play. The same is true when you submit an assignment and it's returned. You are learning so much more when it's returned and there's feedback that can help you succeed in meeting the goals. You know as well as I do, if you ever played an instrument, if you ever were on a sports team, that there are mistakes you make along the way, but you don't have to be trapped by those mistakes. If it doesn't work, then doesn't make me a lesser, these are important things. That doesn't make me a lesser person or a failure. It means it didn't work. It's time to do something else. Ken Langdon, co-founder of Home Depot, says, when you're in the risk-taking business to the level that I am, not everything you're going to do is going to work. When you really lose is when it doesn't work and you start to be abusive to yourself about the quality and your ability. So if you start saying to yourself, well, that was stupid, I'll never get it, what is the use of trying? You won't make progress. But if you say, well, yes, there was a problem. How can I turn it around? What is another solution to the problem? So I want to encourage you, just as King Langdon has said from Home Depot, that we can change our attitude and be the best we can be. Just a little self-inventory for yourself. Which mindset do you have? Do you have an internal locus of control? Do you have an external locus of control? What steps can you take to develop an internal locus of control? The internal one is saying, I'm responsible for my learning. It's me that determines the final outcome. It may be a little harder work at the beginning, but after a while, you will begin believing in yourself and that you can do it and that you can actually succeed. A student's grit and mindset towards learning is not simply a matter of heredity. It's malleable, or that means it's pliable. It can be changed. So if in the past you've had a negative mindset towards learning and you find that online learning is difficult, what can you do to change this situation? Who can you turn to? Who are supports here at Penn so that you can succeed and reach that goal you want? So it's a little engine that could attitude. Some other sources that you can look at when this is going to be recorded and sent to you in an email, as well as your certificate for attending, so that if you want to look at other things about taking ownership of your learning, here are some resources. If you have some questions, go ahead and type them in. We have 8 minutes, and I'll be glad to. Some other webinars that are glad to answer them. Some other webinars that are coming up directly after this, tips and techniques for student success in online courses. If you have time, that would probably be a great webinar that will support and complement what I have just said to you. On Wednesday, talent disruptions affecting jobs in the future, and time management. Time management, as we already talked about, is important to help you succeed and meet your goals. Being disorganized will help feed into your psyche that, oh, I can't do this, I'll never get it. But being organized and having a schedule, one of the things I would do for my students in math class was I would have them fill out a time sheet for a whole week. There's 24 hours in every day that they could say, what am I doing here? What am I doing there? What time do I have to study? So they could identify that there were actual times that they could study, and they could study without the responsibilities of family if they needed to. That may work for you if you are able to print out a whole week schedule from midnight until midnight, 11:59. And what do you do with your day every day? Are there obligations for work? Are there obligations for family? What other things? Do you have some actual downtime? Do you spend a lot of time online just looking at social media and being connected? That probably will be a barrier to you as you're an online learner, but you can overcome that. I want to thank you for coming, and I see a question. You're more than welcome. Can you actually take ownership of your learning? Yes, you can. I think you can, and I want to encourage you to keep saying, yes, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. As I said before, I learned the most in my online courses than I ever have before, because I determined I was going to learn it. Nobody was going to tell me. I mean, I had my books I had to learn, I had projects I had to develop, and discussion boards, but nobody was actually telling me what I was learning and what the outcomes were. It was what I understood and what I took away from it. If you would like to contact me, you can contact me at virginia.festa@pennfoster.edu. Also, as I said before, no, I don't think I have told you, but as typical in all webinars, when I close the screen, there will be a survey that immediately that follows that will help the FAIR committee know if this was a worthwhile webinar for you, how it helped you, and also if you found it to be a negative and didn't really help you, they also ask you those types of things. I really appreciate that you took time from your busy schedule. Many of you are adults with family. I appreciate that, and I thank you so much for attending with me. Are there other questions? You're more than welcome for your support, for my support. And remember, start right away. Make a plan, put sticky notes up all over the place, wherever you're going to see, when you're brushing your teeth, when you're brushing your hair, when you're driving to work. I can do this, I can do this. When you, even wherever your study area is, and I would say get your study area away from your family, so that if that means you don't have a spare room where you have a desk, go in your bedroom and close the door so you can study by yourself, away from distractions. Thank you so much.